So, welcome all to another virtual code club, except this one's with a little bit of a difference. So, as you can expect, this has been a very unusual week, and I, alongside most of the country, am working from home. But sadly, I've discovered that my internet is not fast enough to stream. But that's not going to stop me doing code clubs. So, I've basically pre-recorded this video. In fact, I'm recording this around lunchtime. So what's going to happen is we'll be streaming this video, but I will be available during this video. So if you have any problems, we can pause it, we can help out, and to get into contact, just do so through the chat function of the video. Or if you're not able to do that, there is the option to use our Discord server as well. And this will enable you another method of getting help with any problems you may have. Unfortunately, this requires an account, but it's a free account. Anyway, moving on to what we're doing today, we're going to be making a sequencer, and I'll show you what a sequencer is in just a moment. But what you'll need to do is you'll need to go to microbit.org/join, and then during this stream I will put in the classroom name and pin that you will need. And if for whatever reason those don't work, you can go to makecode.microbit.org instead, and that should just work fine. Anyway, that's the gist of what we're doing. But what is a sequencer? Well, a sequencer is a musician's tool that allows them to, well, make music, but it actually records it. Let me turn that up a bit. It records where on the grid those notes are, which notes they are, and when you play it, it plays it back with one blob per note. And we're going to make our own, and to do that we're going to use a microbit. I don't need that anymore. Now, the great thing with a microbit is you don't actually need to have a real-life microbit in your hands to be able to program for it, because this simulator here is perfect. What we're going to need something that stores our notes. Now, we're going to use an array. An array is basically a list of items, and you tell it what items you want it to store. So first thing we do is we go to basic, and we need a onStart function. This onStart function it starts when the microbit switches on for the first time. So we need one of those, and we need to in it describe an array. So if we go down to advanced and arrays, we can say set something to an array. So we want that. I'm just going to click that in. Now I could call it list, but that's a bit boring. I want to be a bit more precise. So I'm going to click this down arrow, and I'm going to rename the variable, and I'm going to call it beat grid. There we are. So what we're going to do is we're going to create this list of notes, and it's going to be similar to the LEDs on the screen you can see here. So we've got 5 LEDs across and we've got 5 LEDs down, so that makes 25 LEDs in total. We want it so that when an LED lights up, that corresponds to the note that we want to play. So if we've got 25 of them and we've got 5 columns, and each column has 5 in that, then we can't really show that with a simple array. We need something a little bit more advanced. So this is quite a tricky step. So what we need is, well, if we've got 5 columns, that means we need 5 items in the array. At the moment, this array has only 2 items. So let's add some new items. Let's with this plus symbol. There we are. Let's set all of these to 0. So now I've described the top row here, but I don't want the top row, I want the whole screen. So what I have to do is something that isn't really allowed on a microbit, but we're going to do it anyway because we're advanced. What we're going to do is we're going to make an array of arrays. You could think of it as a list of lists. So in each of these array items, I'm going to make a new array. Now, because that's not allowed on microbit, that's a bit tricky. So I'm going to go down to arrays in the left, and I'm going to take set list to array of blah blah blah. I'm going to take that block, but I'm not going to plug it in. I'm just going to leave it there because all I want is this bit here. I want to steal that bit. So I'm taking that bit out, and then I'm getting rid of the set list to blank part. Okay, so now I've stolen this part. I'm going to make sure this also has 5 sections, and I'm going to call that 0. I'm going to call that 0. And now I need 5 of these. I need 5 of these sections, so I'm going to right click and then going to click duplicate, 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 duplicate. Okay? So each one of these rounded blobs represents one of the columns of the microbit, of the columns of the LED screen on the microbit. So what I need to do now is I need to stick each of these in each of these holes in this array we've defined up here. So I'm going to stick that one in, 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 and finally that one. You can tell that we're not really allowed to do this because it looks very ugly and it looks weird and it's gone all the way off the screen. So before we continue, it's best to double check that this works. So I'm going to go to the JavaScript option, which translates my block code into JavaScript, which is a programming language, and see if it looks right. Okay, so you should have let beatgrid equals, and then 2 square brackets at the start, 2 square brackets at the end, and it should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I know, you should have 25 zeros. If it doesn't have 25 zeros, go back and do a double check. Okay, so now I've got this set up. Now I need to be able to display this on the screen. I want to display the values that I've got inside each of these arrays on the screen. So I'm going to make my own function to do that. So if you go over to functions and click make a function, we're going to make a new function. We're going to call this, let's say, draw beat grid. Because that's what we want to do. We want to draw the beat grid onto the screen. So it sticks it up there in a very awkward place. I like to put things so they're moving down the screen rather than up the screen. So what's our function draw beat grid going to do? Well, it's going to look through this array of arrays, and if it finds a number in there that's larger than 0, it will make that you make the right LED light up. So what do we need for that? Well, we need to go to loops And we need our old friend, the for loop. And I'm going to stick that in. So this is going to look through the columns. It's going to look through the columns of this screen. I could call it index, but I'm going to call it something a little bit better. So instead of index, I'm going to get rid of that. Oh, it won't let me. Never mind. I'm going to go to variables. I'm going to say make a variable. And I'm going to call that, let's say, column. No, yeah, just column. Okay, so now I've got a variable called column. I'm going to replace index with column. So this is scanning the columns of our screen. Okay. If I've scanned the columns, now I need to scan the rows. So I go to loops and I get another for loop and I put it inside this one. And I'm going to call this one row. So I'm going to make a new variable and I'm going to call this one row. And I'm going to grab that variable and replace index with row. Okay. So that's excellent. We've now been able to get it to scan through the screen. But what are we doing? What are we measuring? Well, what we want to do is we want to check if these numbers are greater than 0. And this is a little bit tricky in blocks, so we're going to go through it in JavaScript and then check back on blocks, see if everything's, tickety-boo, see if everything works. So let's go over to JavaScript, this tab at the top, and we see it's translated our function draw beat grid for us, and that works quite well. So what do we want to do? Well, we want to store whatever's inside the array. And the way we do that is we need to declare a new variable. So I'm going to say let note value, because this is the value of the note, equals beat grid. Now open square bracket, and we need to use the first thing here, in this case column. So let's type in column, and now I need to take my mouse afterwards and I need to have another open bracket, square, close bracket, and type in instead row. Okay, so that should work. Now let's see if it'll work if we go back to blocks. There we are. So it is possible to do it in blocks, but as you can see, this is a very sort of ugly set of blocks. There's a lot of pain to work it out, and sometimes it's just easier to type it in JavaScript. But now we have a variable called note value, and note value is going to grab the value of each of these. Oh, whoops, I made a mistake. So rather than try and correct it, I'm going to move my mouse down to the bottom right hand corner and click the undo. There we are. So you have to be very careful with this array. Sometimes it's very easy to drag a piece out by mistake. Anyway, as I was saying, our note value is going to be set to each number that's in here. So if this one is 100, at some point my note value is going to be 100. But let's keep it as 0 for now. So what do I do next? Well, I need to see if the note value is larger than 0. So when it comes to a sequencer, we want zeros to be where no note is playing, where nothing makes a sound. So we're only going to play a note if that number is larger than 0. So I need to go to the logic, and I need to grab myself an if block. Okay, and I'm going to stick that underneath set note value. Now inside this if block, I need something to tell me whether note value is less than or greater than 0. And well, first of all, I'm going to need a greater than symbol, so I'm going to go to logic. I'm going to scroll down until, there's a less than symbol. We can change that, so I'm going to grab that and I'm going to stick it in. It works because it's a diamond shape, and the diamond shapes will fit into diamond shaped holes. Okay, I'm going to change that to a greater than. And if 0 is greater than 0, that's not useful. I need note value, so I'm going to go to variables. I'm going to grab note value. I'm going to say if note value is greater than 0, I need to light up the right LED. So to do that, go to LED, and we have the plot option. Now the plot option will tell which LED to light up. So this LED in the top left, if you hover over it, we can see it's a very tiny little message, but that LED is 0, 0. This LED here is, where's that message? You're going to come up for me? No? Computers decided not to come up for me. Anyway, that one's 0, 0. That one is 0, 1. This one's 0, 2. This one's 0, 3. This one's 0, 4. This one is 1, 0. Sorry, 0, 1. There we are, it's working now. Ugh. My word. Sorry, let me reiterate. This one's 0, 0. This one's 0, 1. This one is 0, 2. No? Okay. This one's 0, 3. This one's 0, 4. This one is 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, 0, 4, 0. And this one down here, 4, 4. So when we plot, we're telling which ones to light up. So I'm going to grab this plot block. And in there, I need some value. And in there, I need another value. Which values do I use? Well, I'm going to use column and row. So column goes from 0 to 4, and row goes from 0 to 4. So this will go through every single LED on the screen, and it'll go through in this pattern. It'll go that one, 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 that one. It'll go column by column. Okay, so if we go to variables, we can grab column. If we go to variables and row, we can grab row. So now we should have it so that our LEDs will draw whatever we put in here. But hang on, we haven't called our function yet. We haven't told draw beat grid to start. So I'm going to go to functions. I'm going to grab this block called call beat grid. Let's stick it in there. Okay. So now nothing's happened. Why has nothing happened? Well, all of these values are still 0. So what happens if I change that one to a 1? Let's see the simulator. Look, our LED has lit up. Okay, what if I change that one to a 1? That one's lit up. Okay, let's change that one to a 1. Now that one's lit up. So as you can see, each of these sets of 5 numbers correspond to each of the LEDs on this first row. So this one is for the first row, this one is for the second row, this one's for the third row, fourth row, and finally fifth row. I keep saying row, sorry, I mean column. Forgive me for that. So now, yeah, we've got a lighting up part of the sequencer. So if you look back to the beginning, you saw my sequencer. I was lighting up each little block. This is each little block. But how do we get them to actually play music? Well, for that, I'm going to need a new function. And I'm going to call that function, let's say, play beat grid. Okay, let's click done. And of course, microbit likes to, MakeCode likes to stick it in a really awkward, annoying place. Okay, let's just stick it there. Now, thankfully, the play option, the play function, is almost exactly the same as the draw beat grid function. Let's see why. Well, what this function here is going to do is it is going to look through each column and see if the LED is lit up or not. And if it is lit up, it will play the value of whatever that position is in the array. So, for example, it'll look at LED 1. What value is LED 1? Well, if we look over here, we can see that LED 1 is value of 1. Let's say LED 2 is at 200, and we'll say, what value is LED 2? Okay, well, it's 200. And because we need to go through each of these, and in the same pattern as we did with draw beat grid, we can pretty much copy and paste the code from draw beat grid. So I'm going to click on this for loop in draw beat grid. I'm going to right click and duplicate. And now I'm going to stick that in my play beat grid. So, yeah, that's identical now, but we don't want it to be identical. We want a little bit of difference. We don't need this line anymore. We've already set the note value. So instead, I'm going to pop that out. We don't need that, so that's going to go into the bin. And I also don't need this inner part here. See this diamond? So I'm going to drag that out, stick it in the bin, and we don't need the plot anymore. So the plot function makes the LEDs light up. We're not making them light up or switch off, we're just finding out what LED is lit and how much the value hidden behind it is. So let's grab this, stick it in the bin. What we need to do instead is work out if an LED is lit. So we go to LED, and we have this point option, and you can see it's a diamond shaped block. That must mean it fits into the if. So let's stick that in. Okay. And we're saying if LED at position 0, 0 is lit or not. If it is lit, if it is on, then we go inside this if, and if it isn't, then it skips over. So here I'm going to need my variables, column, ooh, there we are, and row. So if it is lit, then what does it need to do? Well, it needs to play a sound. So we go to music, and the one we want is play tone for so many beats. So that's the first one in music. Let's stick that in. Now, this is where notes start coming in. We don't want to play middle C, because what these numbers here represent are different notes. So if we left this as middle C, all our microbit would do is play one note over and over and over again, and it'll be the same note. We want it to change notes. So let's get rid, well, we can't get rid of that. Let's instead, well, what we need is we need to get the value of each position here. So Is there something on here that we've already written that will get the value for us? Yep, it's this block here. So see the beat grid get value at column, get value at row. I'm going to duplicate that and I'm going to stick it right in where middle C should be. And we do want it to play for 1 beat, and we'll get on to why in a bit. Okay, so that seems fairly complete to me. Let's do a brief double check. No, we're missing something. So every piece of music has what is known as the tempo. And the tempo is how fast the music goes. And it's measured in beats per minute. So a really slow piece of music will have a very low beats per minute, whereas a very fast piece of music has a very high beats per minute. Now we need to be able to set that so we can change how our music sounds in terms of speed. So if we go back to the top to our onStart function, if we go to music, we can actually set tempo here, so the very bottom of that. Set tempo to how many beats per minute? Let's try, let's just leave it 120 beats per minute for the moment. Okay. So I think we're all ready to get started. No, wait. What have we forgotten? Well, when does play beat grid start? There's nothing to tell that function to start. So we need to have an opportunity for our microbit to start playing music. So the ideal way for that is for when a button is pressed. So I'm going to go to input and I'm going to grab on something pressed function. Let's stick it in there. We're very much running out of space. So on a button pressed, what should I do? Well, I need to play the beat grid. So I'm going to go to functions, call play beat grid. And now, because we're actually using sound, we can see that the simulator has plugged in a pair of headphones for us. That's an imaginary pair of headphones, but close enough. Right, so what should these values be? Well, let's just try 200, 200, 200. Let's try that one as 400. Let's see what happens when I press A. Okay, interesting. What happens if I change that one to 100, 100, 100? Okay, now that I've written new numbers in here, we can see that those have lit up. Let's play it. Okay. So we've now got the building blocks of music. There's one thing missing, a rest. Now in music, when there is no note playing, it's called a rest. Now a rest in our sequencer is a 0. 0 represents a rest. So I'm going to leave that one as 0, and let's have that one as a cool 300. Let's see. Let's press A to start. As we can see, the rest is represented by having no LED lit up at that point in the music. Let's see. There we are. Now, what happens if we change the beats per minute down quite a bit? Let's change that to, let's be really mean, let's go 60. Okay, let's press play. Let's watch that out. So we press play, 200, 200, 200, 200, 400. 100, 100, 100, rest, 300. Okay, so that's all well and good. But how can we start making music? I mean, some people are incredibly talented and they can very easily just use these numbers and work out what music to, make their own music. I don't have that talent, so I'm going to do something else. I'm going to steal some music. Well, not steal, but reuse. That's a nicer word for it. So, one of the nicest pieces of music, in my opinion, is the Minecraft soundtrack. So let's get that up. This is Wet Hands from Minecraft, composed by C418. And this is the sheet music for it. So this is what if you were trying to play on the piano. So we go A, E, B, C sharp, B, A, E, and so on. That doesn't really help me because what I need is numbers. So how do we get these letters into numbers? Well, this is where music and physics, the science subject, collide. Each note has what is called a frequency. So what is sound? Well, sound is a wave. It's a sound wave. It's a vibration. And we measure that vibration in how fast that vibration is. And the faster the vibration, the higher the noise it makes, the higher pitch. So each note has a frequency, and that frequency is how fast the vibrations are. So let's take a look back at this. We need to find out what the frequency of this note A is. Now, the easiest way to do that is to go online and type in, I don't know, piano key frequencies. Okay, so the Wikipedia article's quite good on this. Okay, let's scroll down. Okay, so we've got a list here. This one's a bit complex though. We can say, let's try and find the first note, which as a musician I know is A3. So let's choose A3. Where is A3? There is A3. And we can see that A3 has a value of 220. So let's try that. If I change this first one to 220, okay, that's sorted. What's the next one? This one is E, so I think that is E4. So let's see what E4 is. E4. E4 is 329. So let's change that to 329. What's next? This is A4. So this is top A now. Let's see. Where's A4? A4 is 440. This is a bit tedious. So there's a way of making it easier. Instead of having to work out what each of these numbers are, if you know the keys on a piano, or can find a good image of the piano keys online, you can go to music, and see where it says middle C here. This is just a plain old value, but it brings up a piano keyboard so we can make it easier for ourselves. So let's stick middle C in there. Now, let's have a look back on our notes. So we've got A, E, A, and now we need B4. So let's click on that. Where is B4? Let's say B4, middle B. There we are. Okay. Now, I need to do the same for the next one, so I go to music, middle C, and what do we have after B4? B4, I have C sharp, so this is a black note, so C sharp is that one. Okay, let's set everything to 0. Let's see how far we've gotten so far. Okay, so two things I can tell from that. One, I was too slow, so I'm going to change the beats per minute up. And second of all, I've got it too high pitched. I've accidentally gone up pitched. So I said this one was A3. No, it's actually A2, so it's a lot lower of a note. So I'm going to delete that. And instead I'm going to go to music, middle C. And now when I click on middle C, it brings up the piano roll. I need to go for low A instead. Okay, then this one was, so music, middle C. What was it? Low A, that E, and then music, middle C. Click on that, and then no, I've gone too high pitched again. My word. Oh, I'm a numpty. Oh well, it's just going to be high pitched. It's a shame because the microbit sounds fantastic at lower pitches. Yeah, no, I'll be back in a second. I'm just going to go ahead and solve that. Okay, so I'm back and it's taken me a little while. As you can see, I filled out the whole of the array. And, well, you can see here that I've had to go lower than the keyboard allows. So I had to actually type in the frequency to get that low. And if we look here, we can see that the frequency is measured in hertz. So basically all this means is that to make the musical note low A, so A2 I think it's called, to make that musical note, that the sound in the air, the sound waves, that vibrates at 110 times per second. So that's a very, very low frequency sound. So it's very low. And I've had to type that in because, yeah, this keyboard bit doesn't show it for me. Let's have a look at our beat grid that we've created over in the simulator. We can see, looking at this, that this song only has one rest in it. So let's have a listen, see if you recognise it. Okay, so it cut off early because we weren't able to fit all of that in, but that should have been Wet Hands from Minecraft. Anyway, so there's many things we can do this. We can experiment, we can play around, we can type in whatever values we like here, or we can try and create a song that already exists. There are some extension challenges though, if you're feeling up to it. I'm going to go through one of them with you, but the others, well, that's more of an interesting, that's more of a challenge for you. So we can see that each of these LEDs lights up when this number is greater than 0. But wouldn't it be nice if we could see what number is hiding below these LEDs? Well, that's a little bit tricky, but we can do something that's a sort of compromise. We can change the brightness of the LEDs. So if it's a very low note, then it should be a very dim colour, and if it's a very high note, it should be very bright. So, what do we need to do? Well, we need to change this bit of code here. This is in the draw beat grid function. We need to change that out. So I'm going to steal it. I'm just going to pop it over there so we know that we're changing it. And instead, in this place, I go to LED, but rather than choosing any of these, I go to More. And we've got this plot, X and Y, and also brightness. So I'm going to steal that. I'm going to stick it in there. And I'm going to get my old code, and we need to basically copy this old code into new. So I'm just going to take column. I'm going to take row. Okay, so 255 is the maximum brightness. We could have it low. As you can see, that's very dim. Or we could have it very high, which means that they're very bright. But we want to change it to be whatever the note value is. So I'm going to go into variables. I'm going to get note value. Let's stick it in there. Okay, so let's have a look. So we start with a very low note, which is this one. So it's 110. So that's a very dim colour. And here we've got a very high note, which is, which one's that going to be? It's going to be middle C sharp. Now, maybe there's not enough difference between dim and bright for you, and maybe you want to change that. And it's simple. All we have to do that is we need to add or minus from note value. So if you go to logic, we can take one of these. Sorry, it's not in logic, my mistake, it's in maths. We can take one of these, let's stick it in there, and let's replace note value, say note value minus, let's try 100. Let's see if that works well. There we are. So it's a little bit hard to see on the simulator, but things are a lot dimmer except for the very highest notes. So if we look in our frequency chart, we can see that some notes go way, way above 255. And 255 was the maximum brightness you can have for each of these LEDs. So if we minus 100 from the note value, then that means that our LEDs, they fit better. They're in a nicer range. So that's a low note, that's a high note. I can easily tell just by looking with my eyes. Okay, so that's one extension. There are a couple of other extensions. So here's a kind of tricky one. See if you can make your songs longer. So for that, we're going to have to add more to the end of this array here. But also we'll need to find ways of drawing it on the screen because it's going to take up all of the screen and that won't work. So that's a very tricky one. And okay, here's another one. See if you can make a player, so like a microbit MP3 player almost, so you can store multiple songs in it and get the user to select which song they want. That's an interesting one. I suggest doing something with a button press. Maybe every button press selects a different song, and then when you press A, it plays the right song. But I'll be available on both Discord and Twitch chat and YouTube Live and all that service to assist you, and if you do want to have a go, then there are extension challenges. Also, if you're signed up on Microbit Classroom, ignore these numbers, it'll change as soon as I start this again, but I'll be able to see when you finish your code and check any problems on that. And remember that if Microbit Classroom doesn't work, then to try the other method. Anyway, that's pretty much it from me now. Remember that the classroom code I will be sending out at the start of the stream, and also the I've forgotten the word for it. There's a little worksheet that might have a couple of extra bits if you're stuck. Anyway, I hope that's been useful, and as always,